Hannah Murray on TRE in the afternoon.
With us in the studio now is Sean Wooley. He's the founder of Cloud9 Spain, and he's just brought a new book out called Home Truths. It's all about the property market on the Costa del Sol. How are you, Sean?
I'm very good. How are you?
I'm really good. It's great to have you with us. You're busy.
Yeah, I am a bit busy with one thing and another, and I don't get to see many clients anymore, which is a shame.
Really?
Yeah, I've got a team now, don't you know? I've been doing this for 25 years, so it's, up and down that coast road every day gets a bit much.
Yeah.
So I've sort of sat back and taken a helicopter view of the business and the market and written a book.
Yeah, well done you. What was it like writing a book? It's your second, isn't it?
It's my second book. The first one
You're
was
an author now.
I'm a published author, don't you know? Yeah, the first one was a bit of a sort of freebie giveaway while I was bored during COVID. It was kind of like, oh, what can I do with my time? This one is far more substantial. And the funny thing is, I wrote it with my co-author, Alfredo Bloyd Dawson, who's a sort of real estate marketing guru here on the Costa del Sol, because I wanted him to be the check and balance of the book, because otherwise people would just think it was a promo thing for me and Cloud9, which of course it isn't. And the funny thing was that we started off and we kind of had an idea of what we wanted it to look like and feel like and what we wanted it, to convey. By the time we finished, it was 468 pages.
Wow.
It became this monster.
Yeah.
And so we decided that we would try, I don't know what we set ourselves up for, but we'd try and do one a year. So it would become like a collectible. So you'd have the 2026 edition on your bookshelf,
nice.
Clearly marked. And then each year the cover would be a different colour. And you'd be able to pick them off the shelves and look at what's changed on a year-to-year basis.
Yeah, I love that. Reminds me of David Searle, the late, great David Searle, You and the Law in Spain.
Yeah.
Because that was constantly changing.
It was. And I actually had a chat with the guy who owns the bookshop in Puerto Banús the other day, because he said, when's your book out? And I said, whoa, hang on a minute. Why are you so keen? And he said, well, we sold a load of David Searle's book. He said it was one of our best sellers, because everybody kind of walking in would look at that and go, well, actually, I need to know about taxes and law.
Definitely.
This one is a bit different because we touch on taxes and visas and a bit of legal stuff, but we're not lawyers.
No.
So we decided to use this book as more of an overview of the market in general. And I think, by the time we finished, I think what we've realized is that it's a book for anyone really thinking of buying, investing, or even working in this market. This is, we want this to be the reference guide. Mm-hmm. And so far, so good. The people who've picked it up and managed to get through the 468 pages have either dropped out of boredom or they've come back with pretty good reviews.
Yeah. So looking at the Costa del Sol as a market, it must be difficult kind of summing it up as one place because, as we all know, there are so many different parts to the Costa del Sol. You can buy luxury £1 million villas and you can buy little apartments in town further up the coast that are much cheaper. Would you say there's something for everyone?
I think we've lost the mass market, if I'm honest, and I don't think that budget that people had when, 25 years ago when I moved here was £100,000 or the equivalent. And I don't think that's changed much for a lot of people. Unfortunately, the market here has moved on. So, when you say to clients, look, there's not a lot here for you if you want a 2-bed apartment for less than 250, 300,000 euros, and they kind of look at you aghast. But that's just what we're in at the moment. And I think Marbella has become a destination since COVID. And I know we're going to touch on that, but Marbella and the surrounding areas has become almost the California of Europe. It's become a destination. People want to be here, not just holiday here. So it's attracted a huge amount of wealth and a huge amount of talent. So it's become this incredible place, which is really well served internationally in terms of access. Obviously, we have the weather. Normally. So it ticks an awful lot of boxes for an awful lot of people. And obviously since COVID, a lot more people are able to work and live in a place that isn't their traditional home country. So, yeah, Marbella has become this incredible place, but it's priced out quite a lot of the market, I would say. Our average sale, for instance, is around €1 million.
Wow.
Which, I never thought when we set the business up that it would ever be that. I thought if we did a deal at €1 million. Wow, it would be fantastic. Take the staff out for dinner. And now that's
now you're taking the staff out for dinner all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And now, why did I ever do that? And now, of course, that's kind of our norm. So it just says how the market has moved on. And of course, there's plenty of other great agents out there who are doing business at an average of probably €5 or €10 million a deal, which is astonishing. And those figures are crazy figures. And sometimes I have to pinch myself, when I'm walking around these amazing mansions in Sierra Blanca and the Zagaleta, and you kind of just take it for granted sometimes. You're walking around this 10 million, 20 million, 30 million euro house, and you have to pinch yourself. This is what I do for a living. And
a lot of people would never walk into a property like that.
I know, and we're kind of like, do I have to go and see this house? It's like, oh, come on. So we have to remember, that we are quite privileged where we live, and the circles that we sort of mix in sometimes, not all the time.
And you mentioned COVID. Obviously, COVID was a tough time for most businesses, regardless of what the business is. And a lot of businesses have recovered since COVID. A lot sadly folded in COVID and haven't been able to recover. And you're saying that the real estate market has kind of boomed since then.
It absolutely boomed. And I think COVID was the accelerator. And we touch on this. We actually start the book just before COVID and the impact that COVID had. Because I don't know about you, Hannah, but I remember the restrictions coming in, and I think it was a Sunday night here or something, and everything was just shut. We planned to go for dinner somewhere, and the restaurant was shut, and there were police on all the roundabouts just telling you to go home, and we'd like, what on earth is going on? And I think we all thought, oh my God, this is our Armageddon kind of thing, and no one really knew what was happening. But I think once we got a vaccine on the horizon, and once we all realised that okay, we were going to be let out, I think people's thinking changed. And I think a lot of people had money in the bank because a lot of people were either furloughed or, well, they weren't spending because we couldn't do anything.
No.
Literally Netflix and Zoom, and that was it.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people just wanted to change their life. And I think we were also fed up of being cooped up in our environment. I mean, I remember I was living in an apartment at the time. And I remember just endlessly walking around the swimming pool, and saying hello to neighbours on the other side of the swimming pool because we couldn't walk with them, of course.
Yes.
And it was just, looking back now, it wasn't farcical, but it was weird. And so it prompted me to move. I moved into a villa because I realised that I couldn't run a business, well, two businesses from my kitchen table. I was driving my husband mad. And so we moved into the hills with a bit more space. And I think plenty of other people took that opportunity to readdress the important things in life. And I think people also had an eye on what if this happens again? What are we going to do? Do we have enough space? Do we have something around us that we can enjoy? So I think, and particularly the exodus with the home working phenomenon. I think a lot of people realised, oh, hang on a minute, I'm based in Sweden or the UK or whatever, but I can actually be based in a really nice place like Marbella and have 25-degree average weather on my back, and I can put the kids in a great international school, and and I can still do my job. So that it changed a lot of people's thinking, and we saw after COVID, and once the flights were restored, we saw an enormous flight of wealth. Serious hitters. We were. Not us personally, but estate agents were running out of high-level stock. The high end was decimated in a good way by this huge glut of demand. And of course that raised everything along, below it as well. And people just wanted a piece of it. People wanted to be a part of it. And I think the great thing for Marbella and the Costa del Sol was that the demand just didn't come from one place. It wasn't just the UK because, sterling was bouncing. It wasn't France or Germany. It was everywhere. So we had all these different demographics coming to us. I mean, the United States, that was a great story because all of a sudden we were dealing with buyers from the US and also from Canada, and they were people we'd never really dealt with before. But they, again, I think their issues were slightly different. They had the post-COVID thing, but they also had the shall I call it the Trump effect?
Yeah.
They also, they wanted a slight change of life for them and their kids, and they felt that Europe, and a lot of them have European ties, of course, so Europe was a great sort of safe destination for them. So Yeah, we had all this demand coming in from so many places. I think it took estate agents by surprise.
Yeah. And Ukraine as well. You must have seen a demand in Ukraine. There's a lot of wealthy Ukrainians here that are buying up businesses, chiringuitos, restaurants, gyms, cafes, things like that. We're seeing loads just in San Pedro alone.
Yeah, it was interesting because we thought, obviously, a war, you would think negative. So we're not going to get any demand from a war zone. And we got tons of demand. You know, the Poles were the big ones. The Polish level of inquiries just shot up because I think it was just too close to home for a lot of them. Ukraine was another one. The Russians can't really move at the moment unless their money is out of Russia because of the sanctions. So, yeah, we had a lot of Eastern Europeans, and that's one of the... You know, in the third part of the book, we actually look at all the different micro markets in terms of the demographics, and we focus, one of the chapters is on Eastern Europeans, because we feel that's the next big growth area. We're already noticing more and more inquiries from places that aren't affected by the war, but places like Romania, Hungary, places that we would never have targeted before.
Yeah.
And now we're getting plenty of interest from there. And you've still got your traditional markets like the EU market, for whom it's very easy to buy here. And you've still got your UK market. No matter what we throw at the UK, whether it's Brexit or the exchange rate or whatever, volcanic ash, you just can't keep the Brits away from Spain. And you know, they are still the predominantly, you know, the predominant buyer market. And then you've got the Americans and the Middle Eastern now. You know, it's bouncing along.
And even with all the negative press in the UK, there's so much negative press about Spain, isn't there? To do with a lot of it's been anti-tourism. You know, Spain doesn't want us, let's go somewhere else. I mean, really shocking headlines that totally aren't true. Yeah,
it's weird because we get approached a lot by news outlets, TV news outlets as well, to go on the likes of Sky News and GB News and God knows what. And half the time, you know, you're going on there and all they want really is a soundbite, a headline, a bit of clickbait. And I say to them,
you to say, yeah, Spain's over, we're done. That's what they want to hear.
We had one, you know, after the golden visa was abolished, I had one journalist approach me, say, right, we want you on the news at 4:00. I was like, yeah, okay. And is it true that the Brits are packing their bags and leaving? No, it's not true at all. And it's like, where do people get these ideas? So I view part of my job, and also the main reason that we wrote this book actually was because we felt that there was a narrative to what was going on and people weren't telling it. And the problem with the real estate market is it's so fragmented. I mean, anyone can do it at the moment, although that is going to change next year. So sometimes, you know, if you're dealing with someone who doesn't know what they're talking about and hasn't got the experience of working in this market, you shouldn't believe them, because they haven't lived through it and they don't really understand the nuances that are prevalent in this market. So we wrote the book just so people could understand, because as you say, there are so many headlines, you know, Marbella's bust, Marbella's booming, Marbella's this and blah, blah, blah. And sometimes you just think, well, hang on, it can't be all of those things. So we just wanted to write it as it is. And I think what we've produced is a pretty balanced guide, a reference point really for the market. We don't oversell it, we don't overhype it. There are stress points in the market, and one of them is the tourist angle, because, you know, I'm sure you do, we have many Spanish friends, and you talk to them about what they feel is happening to the Costa del Sol. And I think it's different when it's a city like Malaga or Barcelona than it is on a stretched out piece of coastline like the Costa del Sol. It's a bubble, isn't it? We don't really feel any of the local problems. But in Malaga, you know, that city, although it's amazing, it's changed in the last 10 years with the influx of tourists. I mean, I went a few years ago and there were hens and stags, and, you know, there were sort of carrying inflatables around with them in the middle of the old town. And it was kind of like, this isn't what I remember. And of course, a lot of people in the cities are aghast at this, you know, and they, but the problem is affordable housing, really. It's making sure that people can still live in the cities and towns that they were brought up in. At the moment, they can't. And I know it's a problem that's kind of worldwide, but I think there has to be a fairer distribution of tourist dollar or tourist euro so that people can see that governments and councils are investing or reinvesting in the areas that these people are growing up in.
Yeah.
But it's a tricky one. It's a balancing act, and I don't think it's quite right at the moment.
And the fact that you said that you're hoping and planning to bring out a new book each year,
I know,
does that mean that a lot is constantly changing in the markets? I mean, as the buying process changed, has there been fundamental changes that are happening all the time?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the big changes we've had, obviously Brexit, because it affected the rights of non-EU people and what they had to do, particularly if they wanted to live here. You've still got your 90 and 180 visa rules, so you can come up here for 90 days in any 180, but it's going to be more difficult. That you're going to have a little calendar on your phone, I think, to make sure that you're not outstaying your welcome. But other than that, the golden visa was quite a big one, because it's weird, because the golden visa never attracted much business. And this was a visa that allowed non-EU buyers, if they spent more than 500,000 euros, they pretty much had a permanent right to stay. And it's interesting that we didn't get much business through that until they decided to abolish it. And all of a sudden, there was a huge glut of buying. And we even had properties that were on the market at, say, 490,000 euros. And the buyers were saying, can you put it at 500 so we can qualify for the visa? So,
wow.
I mean, that's a story in itself. So, but the golden visa was extremely popular. And then they obviously, it was abolished, and I think a lot of Brits particularly felt, oh, it's all right, they'll think of something else so we can stay. And of course, no, you are now a sort of third country alien kind of thing. So you've got to get in the queue, and so there's that. That's certainly something that's changed. The big one kind of recently was the rental restrictions. So people coming over here just expecting that they can use their holiday home when they want, but also they can rent out their properties, whether it's an apartment on a complex or a villa, they can just rent it out without having to do anything. No, you can't, because the community of owners now, and most properties, even if it's a villa, are still on communities. You now need the express consent of at least 60% of the community of owners. And getting 60% is one thing, just strategically, just getting the votes together, because not many people attend the general meeting. So that's become more difficult, and that's why it's really important now, if you are thinking of renting your property short term, is either to make sure that you're buying a property that already had a license, because it's now transferable, which is really important to know. But other than that, you need a good lawyer and you need a good estate agent who, so that you don't waste time looking at stuff that it's never going to work. What's the point in looking at loads of properties on a development where they've already said that you can't rent out? So you need a good agent who's going to steer you in the right direction, and you also need a good lawyer who, before you part with any money, is going to do the checks to make sure that your money's safe.
So if people are looking to buy a property specifically for rental, it's not that it's a no-go, it's just that they, as you say, they need to be buying in the right place.
Exactly.
So it's still an option for people.
For sure, but you just need to make sure that you're looking in the places that are going to allow you to do it, or that you're going to buy a particular property that already has a tourist license from the previous owner that they can now transfer to you. And
is it easy to get that information as an agent or a lawyer or whatever?
No, it should be, shouldn't it?
Yeah.
So you will get the owner's version. The owner may say, yeah, the community said it's fine, and then and in fairness to owners, sometimes it can change within a few months. So they put the property on the market, and then there's an AGM the following month, and things have changed. So you've got to keep on top of it. We're actually starting to think that we will actually offer to represent people at AGMs for various reasons, but just to help them out and be their eyes and ears, but also to raise the issue that a lot of owners don't realise is, we might be entering a system where we have a two-tier pricing band, one for properties that have a tourist license and one for properties that don't. And that would be interesting. Maybe that will be in the 2027 edition of the book, because then you have a two-tier system, and then you've got to work out, okay, what do I want? Do I want my property to lose a bit of value because it hasn't got a tourist license and nobody can rent out on my development? Or, do I want a holiday haven, but my price to hold up. So that might be the next debate.
Is there still a market for? That something's telling me that this isn't allowed anymore, but I could be totally wrong.
Are you going to make up a word that no one's heard of?
No, I was going to say, I remember years ago, like I'm talking 15, 20 years ago, when there was a lot of investors that were buying off plan and then selling it before it's built. Does that still happen?
It doesn't too much. We've kind of moved away from the speculative purchase thing, because and thank God we have, because now the vast majority of people are looking to buy as a permanent move or a holiday home. It's a lifestyle purchase rather than an investment. I mean, for sure, we still get people who do that, but also most developers don't allow you to do that anymore.
I thought there was something.
Yeah, because they don't want their developments to be overrun by investors and then for it to lose value. And also the other thing is the banks. I mean, in those days, because I remember them well, blimey,
people would buy like 5 off plan without even seeing anything, just over the phone, and then
they would. And the trick to it was, you'd buy a property at 200,000 euros, and that you could get a mortgage of 70% of the value of the property at completion. And then the value of the property at completion was 300,000 euros. So you were getting a mortgage for 210,000, and you'd only agreed to spend 200. So you were effectively paying yourself back and giving yourself a bit of a bonus. Those were the days, Hannah.
Yeah.
That stopped for obvious reasons, because the Spanish don't want the market to overheat. So now with a mortgage, it's the purchase price or the valuation, whichever is the lower.
So you do need, with the price rising and everything, you do obviously need a bit more money to be buying here, because you used to be able to get 80%, 100% mortgages, and that doesn't happen now, does it?
No, it doesn't. Normally, for a non-resident, it would be between 60 and 70%. If your paperwork's in order as well. I mean, we deal with a lot of entrepreneurs and obviously people who are self-employed. They don't always declare everything that they might choose to. So sometimes it's, we have to explain things. But a lot of banks, as anywhere in the world, a lot of banks, it's a box-ticking exercise, and they want to make sure that they're not exposed.
Yeah.
So if they have someone who's been employed for 20 years, the same employer and the same bank in the UK, and very little debt, then they'll be fantastic candidates for a mortgage. But even if they got 70% mortgage, they would still need to find 30% plus their costs, which can range between 10 and 13%, depending if it's a resale or it's new. So you still need to find 40% plus of the property price, even if you get a 70% mortgage. And a lot of people don't realise that, because they forget about the costs. They forget about the nasty bits.
It's really important to know all of that before you start, really, because you might have less money to spend than you think.
Yeah, and that's a key thing. I think before you come and buy something or consider buy something, find a good agent, find a good lawyer, and if you need a mortgage, find a good mortgage broker who can shop the market for you and who can advise you on what's going to work and what isn't going to work. So that you don't come here and waste time and waste everyone else's time, that you come here and you're in a position of strength, because it's a complicated market. There's not only all these buyer demographics, but there's also the different areas on the ground. Buying a townhouse in Cala Honda is very different to buying a villa in Sierra Blanca. So you need to know the different behaviours of the people on the ground, and it's complex, and that's why it's, people say to me, oh, but you're just an estate agent like estate agents in the UK. No, it's nothing like that, because we are tour guides, we are social services. I've done marriage guidance counselling in my car before now. So there's lots involved. We don't have people just for 2 hours. We sometimes have them for 2 years, and so it's a much more convoluted procedure.
Yeah. And buying in the right area and the right kind of property is crucial, isn't it? I mean, it sounds like an obvious thing, but I'm sure you've had many clients over the years that will come to you and say, okay, we want a 2-bedroom apartment in Marbella, and they end up buying a townhouse in Cala Honda or something like completely different, because once you get to know them and understand whether they've got a family, whether the kids need to go to school, all these kind of things, it might be that what they think they want actually isn't the right kind of property for them.
Yeah, and I think that's where you need experience. You need someone to guide you, and I know it sounds a bit daft, but you do need someone to say, actually, hang on, have you thought about the granny climbing those stairs, and have you thought about the kids going to that school? And very often, if we have relocators who are looking to house kids in local schools, we will say, okay, which schools are you talking to, and which ones do you like? Because there's no point buying a house in in Nueva Andalusia if your kids are going to go to Soto Grande school.
Yeah.
So, we actually just sort of row it back a little bit and say to the clients, okay, before we get too excited about bricks and mortar, let's just talk about you and your family. What do you enjoy doing? If it's horse riding, if it's after school football or whatever it might be, and which schools are you talking to, and how do you see your life being led? And that will take us down various roads, and as you say, it might not be the road that they thought about.
And completely sort of taking it away from property and things, because you've lived here a long time, what do you love about here? If a potential client said to you, yeah, we're thinking about moving to the Costa del Sol, but we're not really sure, we don't know if we like it, why do you think they would like it?
Do you know what, I the way I describe it to people, because I'm asked this question all the time, why are you here and blah blah blah, and I think I said this to you last time you interviewed me, was here I feel 10 years younger than I am. And when I go back to the UK, which is obviously where I'm from, I feel 10 years older than I am. And that's the only way I can describe it. And I think it's that combination of the weather, the lifestyle, the accessibility, the more relaxed way of life. I think in the UK, you feel that you're on a ladder that sometimes you just can't step off. And then if you do, you're made to look a fool. I think in Spain, when I came here, I had this crazy notion of semi-retiring. And of course, I didn't have enough money in the bank and had far too much time on my hands. So ended up falling into real estate, really. But I'm so glad I did, because, it's given me so much in terms of experience and just great times in a wonderful place. I mean, I think this place has got its challenges, but I can't think of anywhere else that I would rather be.
No,
particularly with what's going on in the world at the moment. I mean, I know we've got competition from places like Miami, south of France, Dubai. We've got people phoning us up, desperate to get out of Dubai at the moment. So I just think we're very blessed, and I think we're very lucky. And this place is not perfect by any means. It's got its challenges, but I can't think of anywhere else I'd rather be.
Yeah, everywhere has its challenges. Yeah. There's all kind,
That's it. And I think sometimes if you're looking,
there's no perfect place where everything's easy and
it doesn't exist, does it? It doesn't exist. And I think sometimes people chase the perfect location without working on themselves or the issues that are underlying their unhappiness. Oh, we're getting a bit deep now.
Oh, aren't we?
Hello. Is it counselling hour?
You did say therapist. You do all that. So yeah, Sean does it all.
Oh, yeah.
Well, if listeners want to get a copy of the book, it is called Home Truths, and we'll put it up on our website so listeners can buy it from there. And of course, if they want any advice about buying properties in Spain, they can reach you through Cloud9 Spain. Sean Wooley, thank you very much for coming in.
My pleasure.